Chipchilla is an original cartoon from the new streaming service Benki, and already it has found itself in hot water for two specific reasons. One of them being that Benki was created by the Daily Wire, a controversial right-wing news site. This has led to many animation fans online being concerned that Benki was merely going to be a means to indoctrinate impressionable kids with conservative propaganda, similar to the YouTube channel PagerU Kids. Also, Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh are involved with this show. Wow, you cannot make this stuff up. But it's not just the political views of the showrunners that's working against Chipchilla, as upon its official release, people noticed that it bore an uncanny resemblance to Bluey, the single most beloved family show in recent years. Chipchilla's art style went through a massive change from its initial announcement to its official look. While this in of itself is very common in animated shows, it's blatantly obvious that the current art style of Chipchilla looks completely identical to Bluey's, especially when it comes to the character designs and the backgrounds. This blatant plagiarism was so in your face that this show was even talked about on the news.
An American TV show is being accused of ripping off Brisbane's runaway hit Bluey.
I've seen enough.
Nice try, America.
Now, as an Australian myself, I am proud of the fact that our show created in my country has received such universal praise and success all over the world. So, how do I feel about a bunch of Americans ripping it off? Meh. Honestly, this whole situation is just so hilarious. And don't worry to my American viewers, I've got nothing against you individually. While the premise of a family playing games together is very common in children's shows, and this concept doesn't belong to anyone. However, it seems that the showrunners of Chipchilla had noticed the universal success of Bluey, and had attempted to capitalize on that by copying its visual style. This is similar to the animation studio Golden Films, a company that would adapt the same stories that Disney did already, and then intentionally make them look similar to the versions from the bigger studio, in order to confuse parents and increase the chances of them getting purchased. But of course, this practice has naturally led to Chipchilla receiving plenty of backlash, and since this show didn't even try to hide the fact that it was ripping off Bluey, I will be making comparisons between the two shows. Hey, don't blame me, the showrunners brought this on themselves. But before we get into the review, I'd like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell for notifications. Also, give this video a like, share, and comment. It's easy, it's free, and it can really help out my channel. Anyway, with all of that out of the way, let's finally review Chipchilla. So the premise of Chipchilla involves a family of chinchillas. The children are homeschooled, so the parents teach them lessons through various games. The show teaches lessons in being a good person, ironic considering the people behind it. There are also lessons that relate to classical literature, such as Frankenstein, Moby Dick, and Odysseus. And of course, the show also tackles political topics, as expected, such as why US presidents should only have 2 terms, as well as why the Roman Empire fell. Again, the general plots of the episodes, minus the on-the-nose politics, are not too different to Bluey. However, in execution, it pales in comparison. With Bluey, there are tons of elements that makes the games enjoyable for both children and adults to watch. Chipchilla, on the other hand, lacks the same charm and humor, making for a boring viewing experience that is equivalent to watching paint dry. The reason for this is that the show tends to prioritize shoving lessons down the audience's throats over entertaining them, rather than finding a proper balance between the two. The education element of Chipchilla has been handled quite poorly, as usually, the characters just state the episode's lesson bluntly, which is ironic, considering that Bluey points out how trying to teach kids through simply telling them the moral doesn't always work, as it's likely that it won't stick with them, which is why it's better to teach them through showing, as well as using examples that they'd understand. In short, Bluey perfectly integrates its morals through the narrative, while also being fun to watch. Meanwhile, Chipchilla just comes across as a lecture, with nothing but vapid dialogue and bare bones plots. Up next is the comparison of animation and visuals between the two shows. Again, the initial art style for Chipchilla upon its announcement was quite different to how it looks now, as it reminds me of early 2010s cartoons. Obviously, changes in the show's art style from its inception to the final product is common, but wow, it's not even trying to hide the fact that it's copying the look of Bluey. The character designs and backgrounds look near identical to Bluey, and the color palette is also quite similar. Although Chipchilla unapologetically copies Bluey's art style, it fails to reach the same level of quality Bluey, resulting in the show feeling lifeless. Bluey has brighter and warmer colors that comes across as inviting, and the top tier shading and lighting elevates the visuals into a league of its own. Chip Chill's color palette in contrast seems muted and dull, which is simply uninspiring. There are also plenty of other factors that propels Bluey's animation to great heights, such as the camera work. The creative utilization of shots truly enhances the viewing experience. For example, there are these close-up shots where more detail is added to the visuals. Another key example of this is in the episode Yoga Ball, where the camera work does an excellent job at giving the audience Bingo's perspective, showing how everything is much bigger in her eyes, which makes the conflict in this episode all the more engaging. Chip Chill on the other hand lacks the same variety, solely using standard shots. Now let's move on to the next talking point, that being the cast of Chip Chilla. In general, the personalities of these characters are completely bland, whereas each member of the Bluey cast has a unique personality that distinguishes them from other family shows. The characters of Chip Chilla just fall into generic archetypes, resulting in them being completely forgettable. Now at Bluey, the show acknowledges that kids can be bratty, but it doesn't go overboard with that aspect. Unlike some kids shows, while the kids in Bluey can have moments of being annoying to a realistic degree, they also have strong personalities that endear them to the audience. The kids in Chip Chilla, however, lack definitive personality traits and have surface level characterizations. As for the parents in both shows, Bandit and Chili not only have strong personalities, but Bluey manages to strike that perfect balance between them being genuinely good at parenting while also giving them realistic flaws that makes them relatable, which is refreshing, as far too often cartoon parents just fall into the two extremes of either being too perfect or downright abusive. Chum Chum and Chinny on the other hand just come across as robots who simply do the job as programmed. Also, there's an issue I've noticed with this show when it comes to the characters, that being Chip is always the protagonist while his sister Chala is often the antagonist, and the show follows this formula too strictly. A prime example of this is in an episode where the setup seemed like it was switching things up, with Chala getting scared easily, and Chip teases her because of this, before Chum Chum comes in and announces that the day's lesson is going to be about bravery, and how it's not the same thing as being fearless. So you'd think the plot will focus on Chala facing her fears to save the day. But nope, because contrary to the opening scene, it suddenly becomes Chip's story, while Chala gets shoved to the sidelines. Overall, Chip Chilla is a worthless kids show, and attempting to ride the coattails of a superior one just made it look even worse. It's not genuinely good like Bluey and Arthur, and even bad shows like Peppa Pig and Caillou are more likely to be remembered, making Chip Chilla's existence completely pointless. And that was my review of Chip Chilla. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to give it a like, share, and comment. Also, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for notifications. And if you are interested in supporting my channel, then head over to my Patreon. Well, I got nothing else to say, so see ya!